Yeah,
Okay,
so yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the session today. We have Moe Kamel who will be presenting today about a very important topic on Control Tower. Um, how do you start set up governance in your account, especially as you're setting up a new organization or a new account, or you're migrating to AWS, or even if you have had if you've had an organization that you set up and you want to move to a more AWS based model to govern your multi-account AWS environment at scale with the guardrails around it as well. A control tower is something that you would consider, and Mo will take you through control tower today. I'll let Mo do the intro, but he is my colleague and he's based out of Dubai as well, and it's awesome to work with him. Hey Mo.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Nice. Hi. So as Kamran said, it's a great opportunity, of course, to talk about the multi-account strategy, the control tower, the AWS organizations, and how all those topics tie together. And as a way of introduction, my name is Moe Kamel, and I'm a solution architect based in Dubai, but I'm focused on Egypt and Kuwait customers. And yeah, so let me know if I can start, and then we'll start right away. Come on.
Yeah, I think the floor is yours. Go ahead.
yes,
Go
please
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dubai user group session today. Our talk, as I said, it's mainly about building the right AWS foundation and the how we can use Control Tower to build it and utilize the features of Control Tower. Again, my name is Mohammed Kamel, and I'm a solution architect based in Dubai, and I'm focused on Egypt and Kuwait customers. And today is important topic for a lot of existing and new customers, and the customers who are doing large scale migrations to AWS, or maybe simply improving the governance and compliance of their existing AWS environment. So today I'm going to talk about the challenges that comes with building a cloud environment at scale. I will talk about the landing zone and the multi-account and the benefit that comes with it. And then we'll talk about the control tower itself and the features and the benefit of using it. Today it's going to be relatively on high level. Okay, sometimes we'll dive deep, sometimes we'll be high level. But I'm happy, to connect offline to dive deep on the topic. And my contacts are there. And of course, we can reach to the organizers as well. So let's begin. Okay, so let's start by looking at the typical challenge with any enterprise today. The enterprises they have to make this traditional compromises between the need for builders to be agile, the speed, and at the same time they need to establish governance, and the governance comes sometimes with uh, things that slow down, the IT teams. So builders usually loves to the speed and the agility, and the governance, needs the control. So you have to choose between one of them, either the business agility or the governance and control. That's the typical challenge. But using Control Tower, you can actually have both. And the reason is that cloud teams can govern centrally with policies for security, compliance, and operations, and have this from a central place, while builders can innovate with self-service access to AWS services. So we call this model governance by the side, not in the way. And Control Tower will enable you to build the landing zone on AWS and allow you to have this balance. But what I mean by landing zone, so let's have a look at this before we dive deep into Control Tower. The landing zone, from a pure concept here, okay, is your AWS environment with multiple accounts that are configured in a way to allow multiple people and teams to access the across the organization to access and use this AWS environment in a secure but also in a scalable manner. It allows you to experiment, iterate, and um, eh, migrate workloads into AWS without having to worry about the scale or security concerns that being, decentralized and everyone in the team can do whatever they like, right? So landing zone is a great starting point for new not new developments or environment, but also it's great starting point for migrating application and scale. Or as I said before, like you can improve your existing environment that you had before. When I say landing zone is a concept, I said so because the landing zone can be implemented using different ways. So you can build it from scratch using your own resources and stitch AWS services together. You can do this, of course, either when you're using your teams or consulting partner. You can use also a third-party tool from our ISVs partners, okay? Or you can use what was there for a few years as an offering from ProServe and Amazon Managed Services called a solution called AWS Landing Zone. But of course, as you guessed, you can also build the landing zone using AWS Control Tower. So with the Control Tower, you can set up the multi-account environment or the landing zone as we talked, and it will provide you an easy way to set up and govern those new accounts or the existing accounts based on AWS best practices. And you can find this like the multi-account strategy talks in the well-architected review, the security pillar, as one of the focus areas that you need to look at. With AWS Control Tower, you can provision new accounts, and that will be just few clicks, okay, knowing that those new accounts will have a baseline and they will conform to your company-wide policies that you enable. If you're building new AWS environment or improving your existing one, of course, the AWS Control Tower will be able to help and start quickly on these best practices. For my colleagues who are experienced on AWS here on the call, you might be wondering, how Control Tower is different or in a conceptual way is working with AWS organization or multi-account strategy. Okay, so I put this conceptual diagram together, and you can see at the bottom you can find the multi-account strategy that can be like single individual unrelated accounts or maybe accounts that were grouped under AWS organization. And in both cases, they are important. And they actually, using those two only, give you a lot of benefits. So you can group the workloads based on their business purposes and ownership. You can apply different security controls by different environment. You can constrain the access to sensitive data, and you can limit the scope of the impact of any event because you have different accounts, and we use those accounts as containers. Okay, so you can contain the blast radius in case there is any issue, right? You can manage cost, and you have visibility on the different workloads cost by grouping them by accounts. And of course, you can distribute the service codes and the API rate limits across those accounts. However, the Control Tower comes on top and will help you implement the AWS best practices, okay, through blueprints, guardrails, reporting, and compliance. And we will explore this more and more in this session. So the multi-account strategy and AWS organization. So whether you're building the landing zone for the first time, or you had already one and you're migrating it to be or to use Control Tower for your new landing zone, whether you're using the existing organization, said there is a lot of benefits that comes with it, and being the Control Tower built on top of those organization, you have the ability to use all the goodness and the features of this multi-account and the feature that comes with the organizations. The four main categories of features that AWS Control Tower with the multi-account strategy with the organization will unlock for you is you can centrally provision the account and resources. and you can share those resources and control access to accounts, region, and services in the way you like. And you can secure and audit your environment for compliance and have what we call later on, as I will explain, something called immutable logs and audits. Okay, so you are sure that anything that happens in the environment is tracked well, and also you have separate accounts for having access to those logs and audits that you can prove to your auditors that nothing is changing without or changing after the fact that was changed. And the last one is you can optimize the cost and identify the cost savings measure as well across those environments. As we explained before, this will help you to drive the innovation rapidly, and it will allow you also to have the governance on top. Using the AWS organization, you can also reflect the business processes and the organization unit in your company or your organization. So, for example, you can have a dedicated or business organization units for marketing or HR or IT team or supply chain or manufacturing. It depends, of course, in the business you are in, or financials. For example, you can have different new business units. So you can represent those different business units in the organization and have also different operations, governance, and budgets across those. And with the billing and the consolidated billing feature, you can also organize and pay for all those accounts under one bill. So it makes this billing is much easier and less complicated. Also, with the business units or the organization units and with Control Tower, you will have different boundaries that you can apply by account or by OU. Okay, and you can look at this or group those accounts or OUs and their risk profile under one, so you can manage them centrally as well. The Control Tower is your main orchestration framework to create those accounts, establish those guardrails across those organizations, and manage those from central place. Under the hood, or maybe I wanted to share this with you, is that the Control Tower actually integrates with other services. So as I said, it's an orchestration, it's framework. And that, so for example, for account management, it integrates with the AWS organizations, integrate with single sign-on, service catalog, and of course, CloudFormation for creating stuff on AWS, and VPCs for networking. For guardrails enforcement, we use systems manager, we use AWS config, we use service control policies, but that's for organization. And between all of those, the Control Tower give you the functionality that we'll see now. So let's dive a bit into Control Tower. Back to the balance that I talked about between this governance and agility, and working with thousands of customers. Okay, we learned that there is 3 pillars to achieve those business agility and governance. One is to enable provision. One is to enable, second to provision, and third is to operate. And using Control Tower, our main tool here, of course, will allow you to do this 3 pillars. And we'll start with the enable first. So with the Control Tower, as I said, it will allow you to set up the landing zone, centralize the identity and access, establish the guardrails for security and compliance, automate the compliant account provisioning, and between all of this, it will allow you to manage continuously over time. And maybe here as a quick recommendation from my side regarding setting up your landing zone, and back to the discussion as mentioned about the different ways you can do the landing zone. Of course, I recommend customers to deploy new environments to start with Control Tower. For existing customers, they can, if you don't have it, then you can extend the governance and work on your legacy accounts and implement the Control Tower and invite those, or we call it enroll those accounts into the Control Tower, and then they will be governed by the guardrails that we have here. Overall, the Control Tower will take care of the best practice from the fundamental account creation to the blueprints and guardrails, up to the security and monitoring, and as I said, the continuous improvement. Here's a view of the landing zone that was or will be provisioned by the control tower, and this is the base architecture, okay, or the foundation that control tower will provide you when you build this multi-account strategy using the control tower. It's mainly to set up and extend the existing accounts if it is existing environment, or to provision new accounts if it is new. And as I said, it will comes with security and compliance, and this will be, and the control tower will provision those new accounts using what we call the account factory. So the account factory creates the new account with a baseline for the security posture, and will also have preventive and detective guardrails enabled in those new accounts. So now you, as a central team, a cloud team, you are giving your developers or your other workloads owner accounts, but they will come with their preventive and detective guardrails. Inside the control, or using this framework, actually what control tower is doing, it enabled the cloud trail and the AWS config and enable centralized login, okay, and will pre-configure the simple what they call it, the SNS, simple notification service topic, also for notification. It will provide federated access to the accounts using the single sign-on, and it will enable those guardrails, okay, on the resources monitored or visible to the control tower. And I say visible because control tower, if it's working with existing accounts and they were not invited to be under the control of control tower, then they will still operate on their own, okay. But once you enroll them, if they are existing accounts, you enroll them, then those guardrails will be enabled, okay. And then from there you can detect any non-compliant resources across all those accounts. And lastly, there is what we call the lifecycle events. So also Control Tower comes with lifecycle events that allow you to capture those events and configure any custom automation that you wanted as part of this new account creation. So if you wanted to push for, let's say, security solution agents, or push for a special monitoring solution agent or something like this, using the event lifecycle, you can catch those and then do the customization part. So I mentioned a few times the guardrails, and maybe here it's just a view, a deeper view on what are those guardrails. So the guardrails are rules for security and compliance, and they are expressed in plain English. And you can find them in when you're provisioning the or you're enabling control tower, you find group of guardrails that you can enable. And there is two types of guardrails. There is preventive guardrails and detective guardrails. The preventive guardrails, they are there to prevent the policy violation through the enforcement, and they are implemented using CloudFormation and SCPs, the service control policies that comes, maybe you heard about them from the AWS orgs. The detective guardrails, they are there to detect the policy violation and alert in the dashboard in case there is any violation, and they are implemented using the AWS config rules. And there is categorization for those guardrails in a way that they are mandatory or strongly recommended or optional if you want it. So you can follow these strongly recommended guardrails to be enabled. And it's up to you to enable the types that are not mandatory or elective. Here's an example of guardrails. So for example, you say that I need to enable the MFA for the root user. Okay, strongly recommended, and it's detective, or does allow public read to access to S3. Again, it's strongly recommended, and the type is the detective. Preventive, for example, is that this allow changes to any to disallow policy change to log archive. So they are mandatory, they are preventive. And such guardrails are existing on the accounts. So the admin of the account cannot change those policies, okay, and you are sure that the landing zone or the multi-account strategy or architecture that you implemented is actually working as intended. One of the features of Control Tower, actually one of the very useful features of the Control Tower is to have a central identity and access management. Okay, so if you look at the top right in the architecture I showed you earlier, there is the single sign-on and the Active Directory. Okay, so the single sign-on will provide the default directory for the identity, and the single sign-on will also enable the federated access across all the account in your organization. It's very handy because you don't need to, have individual IAM users here and there. You can do this from a federated in a federated manner using the single sign-on. Okay, and then you can also have pre-configured groups. So, for example, you will have Control Tower administrators, you can have auditors, you can have AWS Service Catalog and end users, and you can have also permission sets like admin or read only or write. And SSO, by the way, it can also integrate with third-party IDBs like Azure AD or Okta or Ping or any of those solutions. So it would be very, very handy to enable this on your organization and across different accounts. The second pillar is around the provision. Okay, and let's see how the Control Tower help with the provision part. So there is a built-in account factory, and it helps to create new accounts, but also it allow you to baseline those accounts. Okay, so they come with the security baseline and network baseline, and those accounts are created using the catalog, the AWS Service Catalog, and they are used for automation. With those new accounts, you can configure the network design, you can configure the deployment regions, you can put different configurations, and you can enforce those guardrails on those newly created accounts. So you're sure that they are compliant with the policies that you set for the organization. The service catalog part is provide you a single location to centrally manage the catalogs of this pre-approved resources, and those there's concept of products. So those products are individual AWS resources, and portfolios are collection of products. So you group those into those products and portfolios, and then you can create customized portfolios and selectively grant access to end users to consume those products or the collection of products, which we call portfolios. The bottom line here is that the admin can grant access to the users on those products, and they can launch it, and they can even launch those products or portfolios without having the need to access the underlying AWS services, like, for example, EC2s or database or something like this. You can say that there is three web tier application, and this three web tier application will be a portfolio or product. Okay, and then you give those users the access to those, and then they will provision it without the need to do those from EC2s or from RDS or from the underlying services, AWS services. To give you an example, okay, about building those products, there is a great example from one of our customers, BMS. What they did is they provided their developer with kits of AWS offering. For example, they can build serverless environment or three-tier architecture with compliance, okay, meeting their security team requirement. And the developers here, they didn't have to go and then figure out how to do this or to build their own architectures. And according to the customer here, their own estimates, their onboarding time for a serverless application from 8 weeks to 30 minutes. Why? Because they're using those reference architectures that were approved by the security team and still compliant with the requirement of the organization. Looking at the third pillar, which is operate, and how AWS Control Tower help. So there is four aspects here. One is the customers can monitor and get the visibility into their resources and application that is being used and how they are performing in terms of compliance. They can make sure that they are also auditable. So all the resources there are auditable. Everything from the resources being configured, the users getting access them, what policies are enforced on them, all those can be part of the auditing. The third part is you take operational actions on those resources, okay, and manage them at scale, and logically group them also and automate the operational task in a safe and secure way. The fourth part of it is the visibility. Okay, so of course you can optimize and analyze the what's happening in those multi-account in this multi-account environment, and you can reduce the cost and improve the efficiency and security and posture. Here's a view of the dashboard of the control tower, and you can see here there is the environment summary. Okay, so there's here in this example I have 3 organization units, 34 accounts. There's some guardrails enabled, some of them are detective, some of them are preventive, and you can see quickly here the non-compliant resources, as in like the exact resource, okay, and what kind of guardrail that is violated. So maybe the ABS volume encryption on this resource is not enabled, so this is a non-compliant resource. And you can also see on an organization unit level if all the resources are compliant or not, and you can see the compliant, non-compliant in this quick dashboard. And you can see also, but not visible here, but you can see also the accounts that is being managed by the control tower. Worth mentioning here as well that by the way, the control tower itself is version and gets upgraded, so you can also upgrade your control tower to the latest. So this is part of the settings that you can find here in the control tower. I talked earlier about the customization, okay, and the how you can use the life cycle events. So the last aspect here of control tower customization I will talk about is those life cycle events and how they can use. So they are locked by AWS control tower, and their purpose is to make the AWS customizable, and also catch those events in case we need to provision something or add something to the environment once an account created or something, or account is updated, or a guardrail is enabled or something like this. So there's few events supported with this event cycle. Just moving this one quickly so we can build it. Yeah. Okay, so example of the events are the managed account is created or updated, or there's a guardrail enabled or disabled, or the organization unit is registered or deregistered. Okay, those lifecycle events show whether the originating control tower action completed or failed successfully. This is in case you're monitoring a specific event. And also because those life cycle events register the completion of the control tower action, you can catch those events and pass them, for example, to event bridge, okay, or cloud watch event or something like this, so you can trigger the next step in the automation flow. Okay. The question maybe about the pricing and availability. Of course, like the control tower itself comes at no charge, okay, for using it, but you only pay for the underlying services. So for example, you pay for the AWS config rule or the cloud trail consumption that you do, but for the control tower itself, it's free of charge. So you may be wondering, like if I'm a new customer or an existing customer, what can I do? So I thought about sharing this with you here. So let's start with the new customer journey. Okay, so it's straightforward. You can create the landing zone with control tower, and apply the best practices, okay, immediately on this new created environment, okay. Uh, by the way, a bit of history here is that when Control Tower launched in June 2019, you were able to only deploy it in a brand new account. Okay, so that meant that for customers, they had to create a new account and then start building like a parallel landing zone, and then invite or migrate those accounts. But of course, this um, is not easy for customers. So not far from the launch, we enabled the enrolling accounts and creating the or using the control tower in an existing AWS organization. Okay, so this allowed the existing customers to use it. For existing customer, you can, as I said, like you can enable and deploy the CT in an existing organization, and you can extend the governance to the already existing accounts, even if they were created prior to enabling the control tower. And you do this in a way of invite, and the owner of the account will accept the invite, and then from there they will be visible to control tower, and they will be under the management of the control tower. However, one important aspect here, if you are already using AWS organization, okay, and you want to use the control tower to automate the management and use all those good features that comes with the control tower, there's some prerequisites that you need to take into consideration for smooth transition. Okay, so we can have a look at those ones now. The control tower will deploy certain resources into the account to enforce the security measures and collect the logs, and store them in those central accounts like the archive or the audit account that comes with the landing zone that's created by control tower. Before you deploy the control tower into your current organization, you need to review the management account service quota for the following services: the AWS config, the service control policy, single sign-on, and the STC and the cloud trail. And if you have already deployed the single sign-on, control tower needs to be launched on the same region on the management account for control tower to be able to work on the single sign-on. Additionally, the control tower also allow you to select what regions you would like to use, okay, the services to govern. And it's important that the STC is enabled on the regions that the control tower support, so it can consume the role the role of this in this region to deploy the resources and do the necessary checks. It needs to be successful. That's for regarding the STC and the single sign-on. And also, control tower will be going to set 3 service control policies that are attached to the OUs, the organization units managed by those services. And when you extend the governance to those existing OUs, you need to make sure that there's room on this organization unit so the control tower can attach those additional SCPs. The single sign, there can be also a single single sign-on directory. So you need to work with this SSO. So you have to look at there is a nice blog that talks about this prerequisites, and one of them, as I remember, is the config packs. So there's also config packs that you run on the existing account to see if those guardrails will cause any issue on those existing accounts or not. So you can actually, before you enable the control tower, you can run those conformance packs on those accounts and see if they are compliant or not. And then from there, you can treat those accounts separately. The talking about the control tower and the AWS organization before, just enforcing this message that there is a lot of capabilities that comes when you mix those two. Okay, so when you're working with the control tower, you're actually taking the advantage of the automation and the simple management of this control tower. Okay, and you're using the additional organization capability that comes with it. Okay, so you can extend the governance to those multi-account environments. You have a consistent provisioning of the accounts, and of course using the cloud formation stack sets, and you can manage the policies. You can on a granular level, you can monitor the environment for security threats. You can use the resource, what they call it, the AWS Resource Access Manager, okay, to share resources across across your accounts and across your environment, and of course have the visibility and budget using tools like Cost Explorer and others. As a summary of the key features of Control Tower, okay, that will allow you to build those or automate the landing zone with best practice and apply those guardrails. Have a account factory, so you can have accounts with a baseline for security and networking, and of course have the dashboard and visibility for any action that's happening, and compliant and non-compliant resources, and have built-in identity and access management, and since in a central way, and also have this logs and audit accounts pre-configured, and have those monitoring and notification and automatic updates to the control tower itself. One of the questions that got asked from time to time is if there is a threshold for when to enable the control tower. Okay, and the answer is that it depends, right? So if you have 3, 4, 5 accounts, I wouldn't say that like they are enough for you to build or not to build. It's all about the organization requirement. Okay, do you need compliance? Do you need the governance? And then if the projection is for you to scale the existing AWS environment because there is new workloads coming, or you're migrating some workloads from your data center or something like this, then you better to start with control tower from the beginning, right? It's all about if also the teams, like if you have teams who wants to focus on security, central teams who focus on security, central teams who focus on networking, and central and distributed teams who focus on the workload, then control tower and the multi account strategy will be a good fit, because from there you can build the environment, centralize your security services in few accounts, centralize your network services in other accounts. So for example, you can have the VPNs, the direct connect, you can have the transit gateway. All of those services are centralized in networking account. You can have your Macy or Guard Duty or any other AWS services, native services for security, or even third-party services for security, like firewalls or IPS or IDS, sitting in a central security account. And then from there, you can give the application owners or the workload owners the other accounts, and then from there they will be working with this central security accounts and networking accounts, while they are taking care of the inside services to build and grow their application stack, or the technology stack for their application with a bit of freedom, but knowing that there is networking policies or networking configuration and security configurations that are central and managed by those teams. So this for large organizations would be fitting really well to the or existing operating models, where those functionality or those domains are controlled by central teams. In other cases, and that's good about control tower, is that you can build those central, but you can also give some more extra freedom to the application owners in case they wanted to, for example, have their own security stack or have their own networking requirement in their application accounts or application dedicated technology stack in their accounts. If you are wondering how to get started, so there's a few good resources there. Okay, starting from, of course, the Control Tower documentation, up to a Control Tower hands-on lab, from how to prepare your environment, up to the implementation of different customization inside the Control Tower, enabling the guardrails and extending the framework. So this is a good hands-on workshop that we can go through. And then also the Control Tower Activation Day. That's something that we can organize as AWS Solution Architect for customers who want to run the Control Tower in their environment. So we help them build it from there. With this, I'd like to thank you, and not sure if we will have opportunity for questions or not, but happy to take some.
Thank you, Mo. Thank you. So we have a couple questions from Muhammad Banabilla. All right, I'm gonna show it over here.
Sorry, where can I find it?
Yeah, it's on the screen.
Okay, just a second. So the can be extended the centralized account for AD that use forced architecture with multiple AD domain that attach to this forced domain and centralized logs by using Elasticsearch. So if I understand the question correctly, okay, when you have the managed AD, what you can do is that you can have two-way trust with the existing Active Directory that you have, okay, and then from there you will be using the existing AD, and then the resources can authenticate between those two environments. And then with the Elasticsearch, think about it like a workload on its own. So what you can do is you can deploy it in one of the accounts, or a separate account, or maybe the logging account, okay, and then from there you will be passing on or directing the logs from different workloads accounts to this Elasticsearch central logging workload that is separate in its separately hosted in its own account as well. So you can either depend on CloudWatch, you know, and to in each of those workloads to send it, or you can use the agents from Elasticsearch, okay, to be hosted beside the workload and then send it to the central Elasticsearch system. There will be also techniques for you to mentioning about the workloads and how they can work together in different accounts. So one of the things they think about is the connectivity between those accounts, or the VPCs to be precise, the VPCs within those accounts. So you can use things like VPC peering if you have few VPCs that will be connected one-to-one. Or better way, when you have a large scale environment, multiple workloads, different workloads, is to use what we call the central networking account and host the transit gateway in there. With the transit gateway in there, you will be doing attachment. So those VPCs that need to talk to each other will be attached to the transit gateway. And then from the transit gateway, you'll be able to put some rules about the routing, who can talk to who, as an accounts, and you can have full separation between production or non-production environments, or you can have separation between workloads. So, for example, the let's say e-commerce workload can talk to the back-end ERB, but the HR system should not or will not talk to the ERB. And then from there, you can have those separation through the transit gateway. Similarly, and the reason I mentioned this is to think about the network connectivity between those accounts and the VPCs within those accounts and the workloads hosted on those accounts. Thinking about Elasticsearch as one central shared service that will be there for monitoring multiple workloads. You can have the required network connectivity and then push the logs that you want to monitor from those different accounts to the central one.
Thank you for that explanation, Mo. It was a very useful, interesting session, and I hope those watching benefited from the content that was presented. And thank you for all the questions and your participation. I think we'll wrap it up. Anas, anything you want to say before we drop off?
Thank you, Mo, again, and thank you all for being here. I think next week we have another talk, so wait for us, and hope to see you. Thank you. Guys, you can reach out to Mo on LinkedIn. We just shared his profile as well for any questions or.
Yep. And I think we'll be sharing, for those attended, the survey link. It'll be posted on the Meetup page, so please do provide your feedback. We use that feedback to improve these sessions and have content that you would want to hear and address the topic that you'd like us to focus on. So really appreciate your participation and your responses.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.